Welcome to the Business Mastery course. The reason for its existence is to show you the underpinnings, the basics, as well as advanced principles for running and scaling and operating a business. Whatever field you try to go in, whatever way of making money you pick, knowing how a business runs, knowing how a business scales, knowing how a business works will help you in innumerable ways. Now, what I'll be doing is I'll be walking through a bunch of different areas of interest, be it sales, marketing, formal stuff, so taxes, logo, graphic design, that sort of thing, how to crush competition, how to scale, and in the end, you'll have a very strong grasp of how to build basically any business. Because once you understand the simple truth that really all business is much more alike than it is different, you'll see the world through a whole new lens. You'll get 3D vision. You'll actually become a businessman. Let's get started. Let's talk about something super important that I discovered pretty early in my career and has been instrumental in allowing me to operate businesses using premium pricing, good profit margins, and actually making money. When I started in real estate, I knew no one. I was a young kid. I had no network. I had very little social skills. I didn't have any silver spoon or anything, so my sphere of influence was very small. Now, as a real estate agent, I was supposed to find clients for my services, like any other business owner. And one of the tricks that they taught us was you farmed. And what they meant by farming was you picked an area, like a couple of streets or some zip codes, doesn't matter. You pick an area, let's say 500 to 1,000 homes, right? And what you do is you start sending them mailings and even being seen in the direct surroundings there, and you become the local real estate agent, their local real estate agent. And I thought that was a pretty solid idea. The next question was, which area are you going to pick? And that forced me to make some choices. Like, are you going to pick very expensive homes? Going to pick very low-priced homes? Because as a real estate agent, the more expensive the house, usually the higher your commission. So a lot of people in my company went for the expensive homes. My first idea was dead wrong. So what I want to get across to you in this course is not so much that you need to be perfect at everything and be perfect at first try. I certainly was not. I made a massive mistake. My first idea, because there was so much data, I had no idea what was important. So I just decided, let's take the surrounding area around the office, because that's easy, right? I just walk out the door, there's my area, the office is in there, so it seemed like a smart idea. And the office where I worked was located in like a small, more rural, village-ish surrounding. And I was not from there. And I started doing it, and after, 2-3 months, nothing was happening. And not even nothing was happening, but I had multiple complaints from people whining about me sending them mailings. And I found out that later on that the target audience, the people that I was mailing to, were all between 50 and 70 or 300, I don't know, but old people, especially for me back then when I was like 20. 50-year-old is pretty old then. And it wasn't working out. It took me a while to understand why. And suddenly I had this flash of insight that seemed brilliant at the time. And now looking back at it, you would think like, why didn't you immediately think of that? The number that I should have been looking for was the amount of homes that were being sold in that area. Like, who was actually selling? Start looking it up. Turns out there's like 3 homes being sold a year in that area. So my target audience doesn't really match with me. I'm a 20-year-old kid trying to sell to 50, 60, 70-year-olds. Doesn't really mesh. I'm in an area I don't know. that I'm not familiar with, talking to people that I'm not familiar with, and I'm trying to target an area that had extremely little transaction size. The market just wasn't there. And I figured this out after quite some time, and I decided to move. And my next criterion was very simple. I just looked at the areas where the amount of transactions was much, much higher. So find this area that has a lot of young families or people that moved there as their first or second house and they wanted to start a family. You got a lot of people moving in, you got a lot of people moving out, you got divorces, you got babies being born, you got people moving up to a bigger home. And I can't remember exactly the number, but the number of, like, the market size must have been like 150 transactions a year or something compared to the 2 or 3 of the area that I was previously farming. So I start farming there. Now I'm talking to young people as well, that those matched better with my profile. I'm talking to I'm sowing a much more fertile soil. And I started getting success pretty quickly. The reason I give you this example is because of something that Gary Halbert, a very famous marketer and copywriter, called the starving crowd principle. And he did this seminar and he asked, like, let's say you and I were going to start a hamburger joint, right? We're going to start a hamburger place and you can have any advantage you want. You can have a dancing clown, you can have the best burgers, you can have the best location, and then you go compete with me, Halbert said. And he said, I only want one thing. You pick anything you want as long as I can get a starving crowd. And that's such a solid principle when you're looking at your target audience, your target customer, like whatever service you're looking to sell. Make sure you're targeting people that actually want what you sell, need what you sell, can be fired up about what you sell, can buy what you sell. Target the starving crowd. Don't sell shoes to people without feet. Don't sell steaks to vegans. Think about your target audience and what they want. Think about your starving crowd and make sure that you're setting yourself up with the best possible odds for your business. Let's talk about one of the most requested subjects at HU. Every day, someone in the rooms asks, how can I make sure I don't pay taxes? Or when I'm making money, how does the tax stuff work? When should I pay taxes? How can I avoid taxes? How can I evade taxes? Now, before I get into it, let me first tell you, I don't want you to evade taxes. Tax evasion is illegal. I don't want you doing anything illegal. Today, someone asked me a question about a famous entrepreneur that ended up going to jail for fraud. And he said, what do you think his mistake was? Well, his mistake was being fraudulent, doing stuff that was illegal. I don't want you doing stuff that's illegal. That gets you in jail. And if you're in jail, it's very hard to run a business. I don't speak from experience, but I think I can infer it from the fact that you're behind bars. So, not a good idea to go to jail. Not a good idea to do illegal stuff. Don't do it. What I want you to focus on, there are 2 possible scenarios. One, the question mostly comes from people that are either not making money or you're making relatively little amounts of money. Like if you're not at least at $10,000 a month in your business, don't even worry about the tax stuff. Don't focus on that. The nice thing about it, if you're an employee, if you're a wagee, the government takes taxes out of your paycheck every month before you get your money. So if you get like, I don't know, $4,000 a month as a wagee, the government grabs a share, says, oh, $1,500 of that is ours, and you can keep your $2,500. And at the end of the year, if you're lucky, you can get some tax money back. But they already took their share. They already took the cookies out of the cookie jar. If you run a business, it's the other way around. If you run a business, you're expected at the end of the year, the fiscal year, not in December, at the end of the fiscal year, you get a certain amount of time, and the tax man wants to know how much did you make, how much of that is taxable income, and if they know that, they can send you the bill. The nice thing about that is that you're not having to send your money over to the tax man every month. The not so nice thing about it is if you fail to set some money aside, it may trip you up because the bill is due eventually. What I want you to focus on is the fact that there's plenty of time for you to handle this. If you start your business today, the moment you have to do your taxes, which isn't that difficult, trust me. It gets complicated when you're working with very, very big numbers, but when you're working with relatively small numbers, this stuff is really pretty straightforward. But if you start generating money, if there's income coming in, you have month and month and month to handle this. So for now, if you're not making that much money, don't even worry about it. If it's bothering you, if it's worrying you, you can always set aside a certain percentage, maybe set aside 25% of what you make on a separate account. So when eventually a tax bill comes due, you can pay it. But again, if it's not a lot of money, doesn't make sense to worry about this stuff. Now, if you are starting to make serious money and it's rolling in, what I don't want you to do is try to find a way to pay no taxes. It doesn't exist. Please understand that whenever you buy something, you're paying taxes. Even if it's food, even if it's a burger, you're paying taxes on that. Whenever you fill your car with gas, whenever you sell something, you're probably required to levy sales taxes for the government. Man, you even pay taxes if you die. And yes, if you structure it in a smart way, you can avoid a lot of it. Please understand, tax avoidance is not illegal. Tax evasion is illegal. And people always get those confused. I don't want you to do anything illegal. I think I said it before, probably say it a few more times. I don't want you to do it. I don't want you to even do anything close to it being illegal. But the nice thing about it, you'll see that when you have a business and you start to make money and things are starting to get good, getting rolling, there's no need for you to do anything shady or borderline illegal. There are so many excellent ways for businessmen to avoid a lot of taxes that you don't have to worry about, setting up 6 different shell companies in 6 different countries and getting the money flow right through all of them. Trust me, if you're not at massive, massive numbers, that doesn't make any sense. Don't worry about that stuff. So yes, I'm in favor of saving on taxes because as a business, it makes 0 sense to pay too much for anything, and that includes taxes. No, I'm not in favor of you evading anything. And as long as you're below a certain threshold, as long as you're talking about relatively small numbers, don't even worry about it. And once you get to the higher numbers, you'll be able to consult a professional for this and make sure that whatever you're setting up is perfectly legal, looks good, doesn't get you in trouble, and doesn't cause you a lot of headache later on. Let's talk about your most important asset. Let's say, hypothetically, you owned a racehorse, an Arabic full-blood stallion worth, I don't know, $6 million. One of the best racehorses in the world. You're proud of it. Would you allow that racehorse to eat unlimited junk food? Would you allow him to smoke? Would you allow him to skip training? Would you allow him to be sleep deprived, to drink unlimited amounts of alcohol? I don't think you would, because it's a $6 million racehorse. Probably your most important, most expensive asset. Now, you are the most important asset for your business. You are the $6 million racehorse. And I can do even better because you are way, way more valuable than $6 million. Brad Lee has a great example of this where he says, let's say I hand you right now, I hand you $1 million in cash. I just give it to you. And let's say you get it. How would you feel? Once it really sinks in that this is real, like you can keep it, this is $1 million, this is yours. Would anyone be able to piss you off? Like, would anyone be able to rain on your parade? Would you be in a bad mood that day? I mean, you'd be over the moon, right? That would be awesome. Now, let's say I handed you this $1 million. Make it 10 million. Make it 1 billion. Hand you the money. It's real. It's yours. The only caveat, the only rule that's there is that you can't wake up tomorrow. This is your last day. Would you take it? Probably wouldn't. So you're way more valuable than 1 million, 6 million, 1 billion even. And you're the most important asset. You're capable of amazing things. So why would you treat the vehicle you have to navigate the world, to do everything that you need to do to make your business grow, make your life better, why would you treat it like crap? Makes no sense, does it? Why would you waste time? Why would you treat it like it's a garbage dump? This is probably going to piss some people off. So if you're easily triggered, well, if you're easily triggered, you won't like me anyway. So I'm fine with that. I have this running joke with my kids where I say, being fat is like a visual proof that someone fails the IQ test. Because no reasonable human being would allow himself to get really fat. And I'm not talking about being like 10 pounds overweight or something. I'm talking about like really fat people. That doesn't make any sense. You have one vehicle, it's extremely valuable, and you don't get fat by accident. Like, I'm very aware of my weight, and I'm also aware of how the weight gets there. I've never ever eaten something by accident in my whole life. Didn't happen. Everything that I put in here was very deliberate. I knew what I was doing. If I was very intoxicated, I still knew what I was doing. Still put it in there. So the point is, if you're serious about this, if you're serious about making it, you want to make sure that the vehicle you use to go through the world, your body, is in shape, is fit, can carry you to wherever you want to go. I think Richard Branson said, when asked for his best time management tip, he took some time to think, and then he said, work out. And he's absolutely right. Very solid advice. Make sure that you can move through the world. Don't be fat. Don't be stupid. Don't be lazy. Take care of this because it's important. It's the only vehicle you have. If you break this thing, there's going to be an issue. Like, your business sort of depends on it, so don't break it and don't treat it like trash. How important is it to have all your ducks lined up nicely in a row? To incorporate, to have the logo, to have the website, have everything flashy, the phone number. How important is all that? Andrew Tate said it best when he said, make sure you don't get legal before you get money in. Money is the lifeblood of business. I will probably repeat this many times across these videos. Money is absolutely vital. It's the oxygen that keeps your business alive. I have made money in businesses that didn't have any websites, didn't have a business card. I have made money in businesses that weren't even a business when I started making money. I made the money, and then afterwards I started the business because I had to, because I was making money. That's the right order. I don't want you to focus on getting everything just right, because all of that time is much better spent in testing if your idea is viable. Can I actually use this idea in the market to make money? If it does make money, that's awesome. Now you can do the company stuff, get the logo, get the website, all of that stuff if you want. Because now you have money coming in. Now it makes sense. If it doesn't, that's awesome as well. You've tested for mainly the cost of your time, maybe a little bit of money, but that's about it. There's very little sunk costs this way. And about the whole incorporation stuff, where you form the company, etc., this is, in almost every country in the world, pretty straightforward. I have worked with probably thousands of business owners over the course of my life, and all of them have been able to figure it out. And I can tell you, plenty of them weren't exactly Einstein. They make it pretty easy for you. Like if you look it up, doesn't matter where you are. I'm in the Netherlands. I can go online, basically Googling how do I form a company, and it'll tell me the simple steps, where I need to go, what I need to say, what paperwork I need to bring. And for the cost of peanuts, chicken feed, you can start your company and be official. But I don't want you to go official. I don't want you to get legal. I don't want you to get super, super detailed until you've proven your idea and it's actually making money. The FBI and the CIA and the police isn't going to send a SWAT team to you if you make your first $500 or $1,000 or even $5,000 before you have all your ducks in a row. That's not the way the world works. Make money first. Focus on money in, and then the legal stuff will take care of itself. Trust me, it's not too hard. All right, let's get into a practical example of storytelling and how you can do it in your own business, be it for your list, your social media, for clients and selling, doesn't really matter. We'll go in depth in an actual example that I recently used. As you can see, I opened a Twitter thread that I recently wrote. Let me give you some background to this. What I wanted to do was to turn a rather mundane experience, something that wasn't special at all, into a thread and make it interesting to see, like, if I could do it. Like, can you turn a normal experience basically into a riveting story, something that gets people's blood flowing, something that makes people say, yeah, I want to know more. And I think I did it. I got some good feedback on this. People liked it. So let's go over what really happened behind the scenes. So the real experience, and then we'll see what I turn it into. So I went on a date with a nice girl, and somewhere during the date she mentioned something about a ramen restaurant. Now, I'm very white, as you can see, and I had never really gone to, like, I had like the noodles from the store where you just add hot water, but I assume like the ramen was a little more involved than pot noodles. So, being a misogynist pig, I told her that ramen was lame and it was peasant food, and it was basically Japanese spaghetti soup. Like, I mean, you just, have some broth and some dough, and you mix it together, chuck in some ingredients, and that's it. You're done. Now, she disagreed. Very haram. But it was done in a playful manner. Like, we were on a date. I was being me, so I was sort of teasing, right? And the date went very well. And when I got back from that first date, we continued doing some banter because I liked her. And we talked about the ramen thing as if it was a meme. And I decided to post something on Twitter about it. In fact, let me find that right now. So here's what I posted. This is a question I did. Need some help with a very white question about ramen. And then I sort of give my summary about it, right? And basically asking what's so special about it. And I get some responses, like it's a brokey meal, can be good, it's okay. I get one response, what a stoic approach to ramen. It's funny. I love ramen. And for whatever reason, I can't find the response now, but there was a response, I'm pretty sure, there was a response from someone saying something like, if it's made well, it's like getting a blowjob from Aphrodite, like the Greek love goddess. I thought that was a very funny response. And honestly, a very intriguing one as well. I've never had a blowjob from a Greek goddess before, so I don't have much to compare it to. Anyhow, so I put this up as I'm having fun, right? And I told the chick that I put it up, and that the results were mixed. Like, some people liked it, some people didn't, whatever, right? So next time I see her, I still had to get a bite to eat. So I say, let's go to the ramen place. We go there. It's packed, which is always a good sign. Lots of Asian people there, also a good sign, I assume. We get the food, and it's actually pretty good. I have to admit, it's actually pretty good. Get some side dishes. I ask the waiter for the best recommendation. She recommends something. I say, sure, go for it. We eat it. It's good. And then that's basically it. So what we have to work with in this case is someone suggests a restaurant. I'm not impressed. I ask for feedback. Feedback is mixed. I decide to go. It's actually pretty good. This is not like high stakes. You know, no one is dying. No one is hurt. There's no massive conflict there. So, as you can see, in order to turn this into a story, we have to do some work. Like, we have to get some tension going somehow. So, let's see how we did it. In the beginning of your story, you want to make sure there's a hook. There's something that reels them in. Now, this is the same as it is on phone, as it is in person, as it is in social media. Obviously, social media has sped this up, has made this even more important than it used to be. But you can't assume that just because you're going to tell a story, someone's going to lean back and give you half an hour to explain whatever you have to explain. You have to get some investment in there, get them interested. So I start out by saying, confession time. So I'm confessing something. And then I say I found out that I was wrong about something, and that, you know, it's shocking, you know, that I can be wrong about something. And then, like so many other stories of man's downfall, this one involves a beautiful woman. Now, what do? We have confession in there. We have some funny arrogance in there, saying, how can I be wrong? We hint at the downfall, which is an interesting word. People recognize it. It's a powerful word. It has all sorts of connotations built in there. But there has been a downfall somehow. And we have a beautiful woman. And, you know, most of my audience is men. Men like beautiful women in general. So, you know, we're off to a great start. So in terms of storytelling, this is the hook. This is the way we reel them in. The bait, basically, for them to read on. Because especially on Twitter, but Instagram would be the same. In person would be the same. Every nugget that you use should be feeding into the next one. Should make them go, okay, what's next? What's the next step? You don't want to have them reading something and then thinking, yeah, so what? This isn't interesting. And when we get a little bit more down in the story, I'll show you an example where I actually made that mistake, and you'll immediately see it as sort of a drop-off point. But we'll get there. So, we have confession time. We have the whole hook. All right. So now the next step is we have to sort of set the stage. I have to tell you, what's this about? Like, what am I even talking about? In terms of storytelling, now we're getting to the first act, the setup. So here we go. A very pretty young lady suggested we go out for ramen. And as you can see, we go out for ... ramen, insinuating that it's disappointment, because it's ramen. I dismiss this as a horrible idea for two reasons. And as you can see, it's because there's not much of a story, we have to make it funny, right? So the first one is women offering you food is very suspect by default. Adam got kicked out of paradise after biting in that apple. Do you remember? Now, the absolute vast majority of people are going to know what I'm talking about. Like, if you don't, you're missing some history, brother. But the vast majority of people are going to know what I'm talking about. It's also clear that I'm being funny. I'm being facetious, not being serious. And because I'm saying there's two reasons, and I'm only giving you one in this snippet, in this nugget, again, there's a reason to read on, right? So, but more importantly, then we go to the second one. Ramen seemed like an extremely lame choice. Extremely lame is funny in itself. Like, it's super mediocre. And then it's just Japanese spaghetti soup. Which, if you like ramen, I assume that's like a massive insult. But in a way it is, right? If you would put spaghetti in soup, that would basically be ramen. Some broth, some strands of dough, random stuff, done. Lame. I like using the word lame. If you've seen some of my stuff, you know that. And then, again, we've given the 2 reasons. And now I have to give you a reason to read on. So I say, despite my airtight mansplaining, which is a funny sentence, right? Airtight mansplaining. That's not something you would normally say. She kept hyping it up. So I did what any sane person would do. And again, I'm leading into the next nugget, the next step, the next paragraph in this case. I asked my Twitter bros about ramen. See how we're moving the story forward? Because the only thing that has happened until now is her bringing it up, me saying it's dumb, and then now I'm asking my audience, like, what's with the ramen stuff? And some people say it's good, some people say it's peasant food, and one dude said it's like getting a blowjob from Aphrodite, which is slightly intriguing. Could I be wrong? Surely not. Only one way to find out. Again, this leads into the next step. Again, right? And what you can see, which is interesting, you can see the likes, right? Obviously, the first message has the most likes. But then you have 35, you have 24, you have 22. All right. Next one is 28. So, people like that, apparently. Because you would assume the likes to sort of drop off. But previous one had 22. Now we have 28. All right. Let's see what it looks. Take her to the ramen place. Packed with Asian people. My date is half Asian, blends in perfectly. I'm easily the whitest guy there. So I stand out like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. I have no idea where I picked up that line, but it's funny. So I used it. And by the way, let's talk about poetic license for a moment. I wasn't the only white guy there. There are more white people there. I didn't stand out. But it's funny. Like, the idea is just funny, right? Being me sitting there, surrounded by people, with perfect chopstick skills and locals, and it's just standing. The idea of standing out is funny. So I put it in there. This is poetic license. Like, you can exaggerate certain parts of your story just fine, as long as they don't mess with the whole message of it. So, and in this case, it worked perfectly. So, one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, and then I take all of this as a good sign. Now, again, this leads into the next thing, because the only thing that I've done is I've told you that I went to the restaurant and I stood out. That's it, right? Next one. Restaurant isn't fancy. Menu's pretty basic. Staff is competent. My date is pleasant and bubbling with excitement. Good vibes all around. I feel myself warming up to this whole ramen thing. See what happens now. This has 17 likes. Now, compare this to the 28 of the message before. This is a great example of a spot in your storytelling where you can noticeably see that interest is dropping off. This isn't interesting. It isn't controversial. It isn't very funny. It's just me saying, things are going well. But in a story in general, you don't want to say things are going well. There has to be, stakes and conflict and something brewing and moving the story forward. So this was probably the weakest part of the whole story. Looking back, I should have done this differently. I informed the waiter I'm a ramen virgin. That's okay. That's somewhat funny. She recommends it. I go for it. Add some sides, beer. I'm off to the races. Food looks sexy. Tastes even better. And I include a picture. Now, this has some more likes, but it's still, there's no conflict brewing, right? It has a picture, though. That's good. And by the way, it looks pretty good. Like, I genuinely enjoyed that food. We had some, like, Japanese fried chicken and some other chicken. And then that's not on the picture, but they also had octopus balls. And, of course, I ordered that. I don't know if it was the actual balls of an octopus. I don't even know if octopuses, I don't know, octopussy have balls. Anyhow, so go to the next one, which has considerably more likes again, right? Turns out that, contrary to popular belief, Arno can actually be wrong. Who knew? Ramen isn't just Japanese peasant food, it's pretty damn good. Although it wasn't like getting a blowjob from a Greek goddess. You need to figure that part out with your date. Now, why does this have more likes than the previous one? I don't know. It's probably more funny, right? It's somewhat self-deprecating, but it's funny, and it has a BJ in it, so that'll probably do well. But it's something that moves it forward again. And then there's the but ... because you want to lead into the next thing. The story is sort of over, right? Went to the restaurant, I said no, then I went anyway. Then I went there and it was great. Food was good. So you want to lead them into the next thing. Threads are supposed to have a lesson, something profound. And this thread has 2 lessons. Now this is remarkable because until now, nothing has really happened, right? I mean, the lesson, it can't be much of a lesson, really. And now I'm saying there's 2. So let's do it. 1, if a woman offers you an apple, don't go for it. This is the Adam and Eve thing, right? Especially if she's naked, like Eve, or looks like a witch. I think that's from Snow White and 7 Dwarfs or something. I don't know. Or something like that, right? Literature is pretty clear on this one. Also, see how the end of every snippet leads into the next? That's a thing that you usually do. You want to keep the attention high. If a beautiful woman offers you something you haven't tried before, try it out. You might be pleasantly surprised. Now, originally, my first draft, that was it. But that's a little boring, right? And I'm trying to be funny with the thread. It's a funny story, somewhat, but using the language, etc. So I couldn't really end it there. So I decided to add something else. Or you might get robbed and stabbed in an alleyway by her 3 brothers. Just roll the dice, I guess. It'll be a new experience either way. This one has the most likes. Maybe because it's the end. That'll probably help. I don't know. But also because it's just funny. Like it's a lesson, but it's not a lesson, right? You just, the reason that it's funny is because it's sort of self-contradictory. Like if someone offers you something, just go for it. That's the lamest, most self-help advice ever. And if I ended with that, it would be pretty lame. But instead I say, if someone offers you something, go for it. Or, alternatively, you might get killed by your brothers. But just go for it anyway. It'll be fun. It'll be new. And then you have the end. And if you want to look at, like, how can I structure a story? How can I make it interesting? Maybe funny, maybe profound. Because it doesn't have to be funny, right? I can also tell non-funny stories. I just enjoy doing this sort of stuff. And if it's about nothing, usually a comedy format is the best format. It's not the easiest one, though, but it is the best one. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Because that's a thing on Twitter and on LinkedIn as well, where people are so full of themselves that, I mean, they don't even see the fun in anything that they're doing anymore. Anyhow, main takeaways. 1, if you're going to present a story, it makes sense to think about, like, where do I start? What's the conflict? How do I resolve it? In this case, we start out with the hot, beautiful young woman wanting to go for ramen. And then the conflict is me saying, no, ramen is super lame. Doesn't make any sense. Why would I go eat Japanese spaghetti soup? That's stupid. And then the resolve, like the result, the ending of the story, is me going there and learning a lesson, growing as a man, as a protagonist, by realizing, wow, I was wrong. It is actually possible. I thought I was right about everything. Turns out, even I can be wrong about something. That's sort of the comedic lesson in there. This will be the same with any story that you tell. It's going to be a beginning, middle, end, and you want to have a payoff somewhere. Also, every single snippet, paragraph, maybe even sentence, needs to lead into the next one. And you need to watch where people drop off. Like this is what we saw with the messages that didn't have any conflict in them. There was no tension in there. Like before, when I arrive at the restaurant, I'm the whitest guy there. There's some conflict in there. There's some excitement, like being the oddball there, the odd one out. And before this one, it's me saying, this is a horrible idea, this is dumb. Like there's always some friction going on. Take away the friction and it gets boring. Here, good vibes, boring. This has a picture at least, but still, they bring it out, it's boring. Like if I had to rewrite it, if I had to improve it, I would insert some sort of friction, fun, conflict in there just to keep the story going. We did fine anyway, but it's always good to look at your own story and see, where do people drop off? So at the end of every snippet should be something that leads them into the next snippet. End of every paragraph, end of every sentence. So they get lured in. It needs to be like a water slide, just sliding down until they reach the end and they're happy with their short ride that they've just taken. So remember, story structure. And last thing I want to talk about is to think about like the words that you use. This is especially in a written format where it's very noticeable and easy to see. But even in a spoken format, there's a difference between saying, hey, there's something I have to tell you, and I have a confession to make. Totally different things. Can't even compare those two. Like there's so much emotion and charge with that I have a confession to make. It sort of signals that you've done something bad or something you don't feel good about. So now you want to say it. Similar, and like so many other stories of man's downfall, this one involves a beautiful woman. You could have said that 1,000 different ways. Could have said, I could have followed up like I was wrong. A chick showed me that I was wrong or something. But that isn't funny. That isn't intriguing. That doesn't force me to read on. We're making it a grand thing, like man's downfall. I'm talking about a ramen place. There was no downfall. It wasn't like Judas betraying Jesus. But the whole connotation of downfall, especially because it's a funny story, I'm not being serious about it, and people will see that immediately, gives it like a new layer of interest, of intrigue. So I connected to the Adam and Eve story that most people know. Then I give a funny description of ramen, broth, strands of dough, random ingredients, that's it. Basically, I mean, you can sort of describe any dish in a funny way if you want. Like a ribeye is just a fatty piece of dead cow. That's it. Take any dish out there and you can describe it in a very clinical or almost autistic kind of way, and it makes it funny. And what you want to strive for in every part of your story is to add something in there that gets the senses going. Like when I say the blowjob from a Greek goddess, that is not something that we usually say to each other. I stole that from one of the comments, though. That wasn't my creativity. I couldn't find it now, but there is a comment somewhere that says that. Blowjob from a Greek goddess. That's amazing. Japanese spaghetti soup is funny. One-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. That's funny. It's a visual. You can sort of imagine it, and the whole idea about it is funny, right? Airtight mansplaining. And these are the things that elevate your story to the next level, really. These make it funny. The words. Using words with an added layer of meaning to it. So usually what I do when I want to tell a story, when I write a thread, for example, I just have a basic doc open, like a notepad doc, like the simplest of the simplest. And I just write down like the sort of the beats, like the start, middle, ending. And I write it out. And I look at it. And then you look at the words and you think about like what would be a better word, what would be a more funny word, what would be a better way to explain this, to describe this. And like I said before, like the originally the end was, let's see. Yeah. If a beautiful woman offers you something you haven't tried before, just try it out. You might be surprised. That was the end. But it's way funnier if I say, try it out, you might be pleasantly surprised, or you get stabbed by your 3 brothers in an alleyway. That's way funnier, because it undermines the whole, like the sort of cheesy, corny lesson. But that's something you see in the second draft usually, or the third draft. So you start out with beginning, middle, end, writing it out, then looking at the message and asking yourself, how can I make this more interesting? And then seeing where does the message break up, like which paragraphs are there, are some sentences running on too long, how do they flow into each other? And that's the struggle of coming up with a great story. But any experience, I hope you see, based on this, any experience can be turned into a good, interesting story that people actually read, and when they're done reading, they say, yeah, that was fun. That was a good ride. Good chuckle. Very important skill for basically being a more interesting guy, which is also one of the main skills in business. Like, people want to do business with you if you're an interesting dude. People want to do business with leaders. Want to do business with people that intrigue them. And storytelling, being able to tell a riveting story, having people read your stuff, it's one of the absolute best ways to stand out from your competition. Go tell your stories. The world needs more stories. I figured out that because this is like a limited platform, like you can't see it outside, you can't see it on YouTube or anywhere else, not even on Rumble, I can like smoke and drink all I want. So that's going to be nice. It's going to be awesome. Think about the thing that a business needs most. In a previous video, I told you that it was cash flow, money in. There needs to be money in. But what lies at the basis of money in is lead generation. If you've seen Glengarry Glen Ross, you know the part in the sales meeting where Alec Baldwin is doing the sales meeting, and then he's talking about the leads. One of the salespeople says the leads are weak, and Alec Baldwin says the leads are weak. The fucking leads are weak. You're weak. I love that line. A lead is someone that is interested, that has expressed interest in whatever you're selling. And when I talk about lead generation, when I talk about leads in general, this goes for both you and any client you will ever help. So your own business, whatever you try to do, whatever you decide to do, doesn't matter if you're going to be a bakery or if you're going to do marketing for other companies, if you're going to be a copywriter, if you're going to sell courses, doesn't matter what you do. Every single business in the world, on the planet Earth, needs leads, and they need more leads. Now, lead generation is about how do you entice people, how do you seduce people to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm in the market for this product. Yes, I'm interested in whatever you're offering. Yes, I'd love to know how I get this result. Whatever they're after, right? Now, what I'll be doing, I have a few videos coming up for you about lead generation. I'll walk you through everything I know about the subject. And like I said, my first fortune was built on lead generation. And to an extent, every cent, every amount of money that I've ever made started with lead generation. It is vital. It is so important. If you're the guy that can get clients for a business, you're irreplaceable. It's probably the most valuable skill set you can have. There are millions of salespeople around the world, but a small fraction, a small percentage of them know how to generate their own leads, how to generate their own traffic, and then how to convert them. That's a subject for the future. We'll be talking about that as well. But first of all, we need to start with how to get leads. Let's make sure to get that lead funnel going to get that lead traffic going and to get you enough lead flow into your pipeline so you can get to making money. The first thing that you need to understand when we're talking about leads is that customers go through a customer journey. Someone that is interested in a product or service doesn't usually wake up in the morning, gets out of bed, and says, "Hey, let me buy this right now." Unless you're selling impulse purchases, and even then, there's a lot of programming and a lot of lead generation that you can do beforehand to make sure that they pick you, that they pick up the phone or they look you up on the internet and pick you as a service provider. But in general, there's a customer journey, especially when you're talking about higher ticket items. Now, you have to understand, this is all human psychology. You need to get inside of the mind of your customer. And the earlier you get to them, the earlier in their journey that you get to them, the more influence you can exert, and the lower the cost of generating the actual leads. We're going to get into that in a bit, but for now, please know that someone that is toying around with the idea is usually more easy to influence and usually cheaper to get to. Now, let me give you a couple of examples so you can get your imagination going, so you sort of know where I'm moving towards. So I'm making it concrete instead of conceptual. I want to give you some concrete examples. Let me start out with real estate. Take you all the way back when I'm starting to figure out how to be a real estate guy, a real estate agent, and I want to get sellers. I want to attract people that are selling their property. So my competition at this point, and probably still to this day because they've been doing it for decades, my competition is running ads, either saying, "We're the best agent in the world, you should call us," which is lame because everyone says the same thing. Or someone came up with the idea of saying, "If you want to know what your property is worth, give us a call and we'll tell you." And then they'll close for the appointment, go there, and do their sales spiel, etc., right? So I'm in the position where I need to find a way to stand out and to generate seller leads. And the way you do that, like I said before, you get inside the mind of your customer. So one of the things that I did was say, if you're interested in the value of your property, give us a call or send us an email or click on this form or whatever, right? And we will give you a computerized overview of the value of your property. Now, the reason why I did that is because most people are smart enough to know that if you ask a real estate agent for the value of your property, he wants to come over. And you don't want to deal with that. You know, you gotta have someone over, it's annoying. So there's a higher barrier to entry. When I say you get a computerized overview of the value of your property, it was really easy for me to do. I just had to get some properties from the MLS, send it to them digitally, super easy. Even in the time that I'm talking about, like even 10 plus years ago, this was easy to do. And what I do is that I'd make them fill out the form. They would send in their information, which is usually email address and phone number. I would send them the computerized list, but it would have like a report attached to it saying, "Hey, this is just, you know, the closest 5 or 10 transactions in the recent period. I'll be getting in touch with you to make sure that the value of your property is correctly appraised." And then after that, I could call them. And now there's already, like I've already given them something. I've gotten reciprocity going. It's way easier talking to those people and making the appointment, going there. I made a lot of appointments that way. And once you're in there, you can let your sales skills do the rest. So that was one way of, you know, getting them to respond. I've also had a business that did Google ads for other businesses. So you run a business, you want to get on Google AdWords, and we would do the management of your ads, right? Now, how would you generate leads for that business? Pretty damn easy. You, again, get into the customer's mind. And like these people are business owners. So one of the first things that they would do is look up, how do I advertise my business on Google? Or how do Google Ads work? How do Google Ads work? Or how do I get clients from Google Ads? Whatever, right? So what I did is I made a free guide. So I made like a sort of an ebook. Not really an ebook, it was like 15 pages or something. And it was something like the ultimate way for small business owners to use Google AdWords and get unlimited clients. Something like that. I can't remember the exact title. But the main point is, if you go into your customer's mind and you realize what are these people looking for, what are they actually trying to find, and then you provide that, it makes it way easier to generate leads because I'm giving them exactly what they want. And the only thing that they have to do is to fill in their information. Now in this case, I was doing email. So not even email phone number, but you can do email phone number as well. In this case, I did email. And advertised that, got a lot of signups at a pretty cheap lead cost because this is not like a massively expensive keyword at that point. It's not hard to advertise as well. Like it's pretty easy to sell someone on something free. And then when they sign up, they get the report. The report is sort of a sales letter for my service, basically getting in touch with me, getting a free scan of your AdWords account. And if you don't even have an AdWords account, getting a free overview, like is AdWords worth it for you? Just so we can get in touch, right? And they get follow-up emails. So I had an autoresponder set up where they would get, 25 emails over the course of 50 days or something. And every single email was a different angle from which to sell them on booking the call, actually getting in touch, saying, yeah, I want to know, yeah, please get in touch with me. Because that's a sales call. If I get the sales call, I'm pretty persuasive. I can do that. And they gave me permission because now when I'm on the sales call, I'm the expert. I'm Arno, the guy that wrote the ebook, and they came to me, which is way better than me coming to them, let me tell you. But they came to me, and now the sale is much easier. I also did marketing seminars for real estate agents. So marketing and sales seminars on how to sell yourself as a real estate agent, how to be a better real estate agent, how to close more deals. Now, same thing. You get into the mind of a real estate agent. You understand like what challenges are they wrestling with? What are they facing? What are they doing? What do they need? Because no real estate agent is going to look for a marketing and sales seminar for real estate agents. That doesn't really happen. But if I tell you, I have a system where I can close sellers all day long at higher rates than your competition without any price objections whatsoever. I can generate leads without cold calling. Let me show you my proven system for attracting seller leads, so sellers call you instead of you trying to reach out to them. Now this gets interesting. And the way I did it was basically saying, I got this free report. Again, maybe these days I would do a free video, maybe I would do a cheat sheet, I don't know. But I got this free thing that you can apply for. And if you just give me your email address, I'll send it out and I'll send it right over. Same thing. Get the email address, send the report. The report is like a 15 or 25 page sales letter, really. Like it's disguised somewhat, so it has information, but really it's a sales letter. And then it's followed up by follow-up emails just to sell them on, getting on a call, seeing if I can sell the tickets to the seminar, etc. So first thing when you want to generate a lead in general is get into the mind of your customer, see what they actually want, and see if there's something that you can offer them that would get their blood flowing, that would entice them to say, yes, I'll raise my hand, yes, I want this, yes, I need this, please send it over, please, please, please. All right, let's talk about two types of lead generation and the distinction that you need to understand. If you get this, you will drastically increase the amount of leads that you can generate and the amount of business that you do over time for any business, be it for yourself, like if you're the freelancer, or the marketer or the consultant, or for any business that you decide to work with, you can improve their marketing tenfold probably just by understanding this simple principle. There are two types of lead generation, and very easy. You have one-step lead generation and you have two-step lead generation. Now you can make this as complex as you want, but this is the basic version of it. Compare it to fishing. One-step lead generation is like you going spear fishing. So you step into the stream and you have your spear and you wait until a fish comes by, and when it comes by, you get it. This is like, cold outreach, getting in touch with people through email, Instagram, Twitter, any other sort of DM. Like that is what you're doing. You're looking for a client and you've sort of identified them based on their need or their niche or their, place of business. Something compels you to get in touch with them and see if they need your services. And, sometimes you hit it, spearfish, awesome. This is very active. And in the beginning of your journey as a businessman, as a freelancer, this is what you do. Like you reach out and you get in touch with as many people as possible. And you keep doing that as well. Very important in terms of sales and in terms of getting a good flow going, keeping your funnel, your pipeline full. Many people never progress or never even set up two-step lead generation, which is my favorite type of lead generation, and which is the thing that I've always used in basically any business that I've ever had. Two-step lead generation, instead of the spearfishing thing, it's where you set up a net and you just wait for the fish to come in. Or maybe you drag the net across the water. I'm not a fishing guy, so if you're a fishing guy and this is all wrong, forgive me. I don't like to fish. It takes too long, and the fish don't have much of a chance, and whatever. Anyhow, let's step away from the fishing analogy. Two-step lead generation is, I alluded to it in the previous video, but it is where you think about what your prospect probably wants to accomplish, what helps them in their customer journey, and you give it to them as a lead magnet. So let's say you're doing marketing for a cosmetic surgeon and he wants to sell more boob jobs, whatever. Then it makes sense to put something together saying like the 4 things you have to know before you even think about getting a boob job. There's probably like a technical term for a boob job, but I think we all understand, right? What breast enhancement or whatever you want to call it. And maybe even like you can look into why are people getting a breast enhancement, and maybe you find out that some women want it bigger. Maybe you find out that some women are insecure about their saggy breasts, and then you can say, how do you the best steps to take when your breasts are sagging after breastfeeding your child, whatever. Like, it can be as specific as you want. What you're doing is you're collecting customer information, you're collecting contact information, and you're building a list. And the list is absolutely vital. I think this is the most underappreciated, underrated way of lead generation and sales generation for businesses by far. One-step lead generation is overrated, in my humble opinion. It's necessary. I've done it. I still do it to this day, but it's overrated. And the two-step lead generation is underrated. It's underused. It's underutilized. People don't understand it, and it's so important. You can walk into any business, almost any business, and I can guarantee you that you can increase their results just by implementing this. In any social media that you use, any marketing that you do, you want to make it easy for them to respond. You want to entice them to say, yes, here's my name, here's my email address, phone number, whatever you want to get, all right? Address, doesn't really matter. And you collect these pieces of information. Let's say, for sake of convenience, let's say it's an email list. Collect the email addresses. And now what you can do, obviously you send them whatever they requested, right? Can be a guide, can be a video, can be a cheat sheet, can be like a overview of their situation, a scan of whatever ails them. There's something that bugs them. There's a problem they want to solve, because that's always the reason why people, do something. They usually want to solve a problem or improve something. And you send them whatever they requested, but after that, now you get to send them anything you want and forever. And it's free. I mean, this is like an autoresponder, right? This is an email thing. Autoresponders are cheap, by the way. Some of them are even free, up to a certain point, of course. If you have a big list, they're not free anymore. But we're talking about I don't know, $19 a month, $29 a month. Some of them start out free until the first 100 or 500 names or something. It's great. What happens is they request whatever they request. The thing sends it out automatically. And now you can start to schedule more emails. So maybe the day after you send them an email. Hey, yesterday I sent you this guide. There's another thing that I wanted to tell you, blah, 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 blah. And then what you can do at the end of every message, or in every message, you can either do a soft sale or a hard sale. You can sort of give them the opportunity of, hey, I'm still here. If you want to take action, if you want to buy, if you want to set up a consult, if you want to get on a phone call, whatever, here's the way to do it. Because like I said in the previous video, people go through a customer journey. And the problem with spear phishing is that you only get one shot usually. And when you miss, when you do the one-step thing, you're there and maybe it's not the right time. Maybe they don't feel like it now. Maybe something comes up and then you lose them, which is really sad, because maybe these people are in the market. Maybe they would have bought anyway, but because you're doing the one-step thing and you're not collecting their contact information, now you lose them and someone else makes the sale, which isn't good. That money should have been going into your pocket, not theirs, obviously. Two-step lead generation allows you to stay in touch with your target market. And over time, what happens, which is really, really awesome, and I want you to pay attention, what happens is that you build up a list of people that are interested in whatever you have to say, whatever you have to sell, and these people know you because you've been communicating with them, and you don't even notice. Any business that I've ever ran has done this, but I've gotten to a point where, maybe I have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people on my list, but maybe you start out with 100, right? And then you communicate with them, and the autoresponder, you write it today, and 2 years from now, it's still going out. That message that you write today still has value 2 years from now. So you build up a body of work. And what happened to me in many businesses that I've ran is that you set it up today, and then you see someone be on the list for weeks, sometimes months. And all of a sudden, the time is right. They get the email. The moment is there for whatever reason. Now they want to go through with it. Now is, I don't know, something, the planets are aligned and everything collides. And now the time is there and you're there, which is awesome because you've been there all the time. Most of them don't even know that maybe this is an autoresponder, that you've set it up, because you took the time to follow up and it was all automatic. Follow-up is a superpower, and you can automate this through the autoresponder, which is great. But the main thing is you're in front of their face all the time instead of getting your one shot and then losing it. So absolutely vital for you to not only do the one-step stuff. The one-step stuff is great. It works. It's proven. I've done it. I still do it. It's great. But also look at the two-step stuff. Build that lead magnet. Build that lead magnet offer where people can opt in and say, yeah, that's interesting. And then set up the autoresponder, because this is going to pay dividends. This is going to bear fruit for the foreseeable future. It's an awesome way to do it. The list is the most underrated thing in marketing today, and I want you to build it. Trust me, you won't regret it.